Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshakable, no matter what life throws at them? They face failure, rejection, and pressure, but somehow they never break. The truth is, it's not luck. It's mindset. In Become Unbreakable, the mindset that changes everything by NextGen Audiobook, you'll discover that strength doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from mastering your thoughts, your habits, and your purpose. If you're ready to stop being controlled by fear, self-doubt, and excuses, then keep listening, because today we're uncovering the mindset that can change everything. Chapter 1. Recognize the inner battlefield. Every person carries an entire world inside their mind, a world filled with thoughts, beliefs, memories, and stories that shape how they see themselves and everything around them. For most people, this world operates silently in the background, influencing every decision, emotion, and reaction without being noticed. The first step to becoming unbreakable is bringing that hidden world into the light. The audiobook Become Unbreakable, the mindset that changes everything, begins with one simple truth. Your greatest battles are not fought in your career, relationships, or environment. They are fought in your mind. What happens outside of you may challenge you, but what happens inside of you determines whether you rise or crumble. When you feel overwhelmed, stuck, or defeated, it's tempting to blame circumstances. You might think the problem is your job, your family, or your finances. But the truth is that the first spark of every struggle begins with a thought, a quiet whisper of fear, doubt, or limitation. The mind interprets an event, gives it meaning, and that meaning becomes your emotional reality. The same situation can destroy one person and strengthen another, depending entirely on how each person thinks about it. To recognize the inner battlefield, you have to slow down and observe the patterns of your thoughts. This is not always easy, because most people live on autopilot. Thoughts appear, emotions follow, and reactions happen automatically. If you want to master your mind, you must first become the observer instead of the participant. Imagine standing in a crowded room full of voices. Each voice represents a thought. One says, "You can't." Another says, "What if you fail?" And another insists, "You're not ready." At first, all the voices blend together until you believe they are you. But they aren't. They are simply echoes, fragments of old experiences, fears and beliefs that have settled in your subconscious over time. The moment you realize this, something powerful happens. You gain distance from your thoughts. You begin to understand that you are not your mind. You are the one listening to it. Becoming aware of your thoughts is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you can see what's been tripping you up for years. You start to notice recurring mental scripts. "I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. People like me don't succeed." These patterns are not truths. They are stories your mind tells to protect you from pain or disappointment. Unfortunately, they also keep you small. An unbreakable mindset begins with rewriting those stories. But you can't rewrite what you refuse to read. That's why awareness is the first and most essential step. It's the difference between being controlled by your thoughts and consciously choosing how to respond to them. Start with small moments. The next time you feel anxious or angry, pause and ask yourself, "What am I telling myself right now?" You might realize that your frustration isn't about what happened, but about what you believed it meant. Maybe someone criticized you, and you immediately thought, "I must not be good enough." The event itself wasn't the problem, your interpretation was. Once you see that pattern, you can challenge it. You can replace it with a more empowering truth. "This feedback helps me grow." Recognizing the inner battlefield also means understanding that your mind is designed to protect you, not to make you extraordinary. Its job is survival, not success. That's why it constantly looks for danger, both real and imagined. It exaggerates problems, amplifies fears, and holds on to pain because it believes doing so keeps you safe. But if you listen to that protective voice too often, you'll spend your life avoiding challenges instead of growing from them. To shift this, you need to build mental awareness every day. Some people use journaling, writing down the thoughts that repeat most often. Others practice mindfulness or meditation, simply observing their thoughts without judgment. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll start to see which thoughts are useful and which ones are destructive. The destructive ones often sound logical and familiar. They're the ones that tell you to play small, wait for the right time, or seek approval before acting. Here's the key insight. Thoughts lose their power when you observe them without reacting. The moment you say, "I notice that I'm thinking I can't do this," you separate yourself from the thought. It becomes just a passing cloud in the sky of your mind instead of a storm that controls your life. This separation gives you freedom, the freedom to choose a new response. Recognizing your inner battlefield isn't a one-time realization. It's a daily discipline. Some days you'll catch negative thoughts immediately. Other days they'll slip by unnoticed. That's normal. What matters is persistence. Each time you notice a destructive pattern, you weaken its hold. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you reclaim power. You'll also begin to see that the battlefield isn't always filled with fear and doubt. Sometimes it's pride, ego, or comparison. Your mind might tell you that you're only valuable when you outperform others, or that you must constantly prove yourself. These beliefs create invisible pressure that eventually breaks you. Becoming unbreakable means letting go of the need to be perfect and learning to find peace in progress. As you train yourself to observe your thoughts, you'll realize that many of them don't even belong to you. They were inherited from parents, teachers, friends, or society. Someone may have told you as a child that you weren't smart enough or strong enough, and without questioning it, you carried that belief into adulthood. Recognizing the inner battlefield means tracing those borrowed beliefs back to their source and deciding which ones deserve to stay. This process isn't comfortable. In fact, it can feel like losing a part of yourself, because for years those thoughts defined your identity. But discomfort is proof of growth. Every time you question an old belief, you're breaking through another layer of mental limitation. You're creating space for new possibilities to take root. Ultimately, the mind is both your greatest obstacle and your greatest weapon. If left untrained, it will sabotage you through fear and self-doubt. But if mastered, it becomes the most powerful tool you have for transformation. Awareness is the sword that allows you to navigate this inner battlefield. It doesn't silence the enemy, it teaches you to see through its illusions. To become unbreakable, begin here. Watch your thoughts, the way a warrior studies the battlefield. Know your patterns, your triggers, and your weaknesses. When a thought of fear appears, acknowledge it, but don't obey it. When doubt whispers, listen, but don't let it dictate your choices. Over time, this awareness becomes strength. You'll stop reacting and start responding with clarity and confidence. Remember, you cannot conquer what you don't confront. The first victory in becoming unbreakable is not in changing the world. It's in changing the way you see and speak to yourself. Once you win that inner war, no challenge outside of you can defeat you. Chapter 2. Build resilience through discomfort. Resilience is not something you are born with. It is something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. Every time you face discomfort and choose to keep going, you add another layer of strength to your character. Becoming unbreakable is not about avoiding pain, it's about learning to rise through it. The truth is, discomfort is the most honest teacher you'll ever meet. It strips away illusions, exposes your limits, and shows you exactly where growth is waiting. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They seek safety, predictability, and ease. They avoid situations that might make them look foolish or expose their weaknesses. Yet the irony is that the more we avoid discomfort, the weaker we become. The muscle of resilience only develops through resistance. Just as the body grows stronger under physical stress, the mind grows stronger under emotional and psychological pressure. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to train that mental muscle. Think about any person you admire: athletes, leaders, entrepreneurs, artists. None of them reached greatness by staying comfortable. They faced rejection, failure, loss, and criticism, yet they kept moving forward. What separates them from others is not talent or luck, it's their relationship with discomfort. They don't see it as something to run from. They see it as part of the process. They understand that resilience isn't built when things are easy. It's built when things are hard, and you choose to continue anyway. Discomfort comes in many forms. It could be physical, like pushing your body during a workout. It could be emotional, like confronting a painful truth or having a difficult conversation. It could be mental, like stepping into uncertainty or learning something that challenges your beliefs. No matter the form, discomfort always triggers the same response in your mind: resistance. That little voice says, "Stop, this hurts, go back to what's safe." But growth lives on the other side of that voice. The moment you push through, even just a little, you expand what's possible for you. Building resilience starts with changing how you interpret discomfort. Instead of labeling it as a signal to quit, see it as a signal to grow. When you start to feel that tension or fear, remind yourself, this is the moment my mind is training. This is where strength is built. By shifting your mindset, discomfort becomes less of an enemy and more of a tool. Each uncomfortable experience is a chance to prove to yourself that you can endure, adapt, and keep moving forward. One practical way to build resilience is through small daily challenges. You don't need to climb mountains or run marathons to become mentally strong. Start by doing one thing each day that stretches you beyond your comfort zone. It might be waking up an hour earlier, making that phone call you've been avoiding, or speaking up when you'd usually stay silent. These small acts of courage accumulate. Over time, they train your mind to stay calm and focused under pressure. They remind you that fear and discomfort don't control you, you control them. Another key element of resilience is perspective. When challenges appear, it's easy to focus on what's going wrong, but resilient people look for what the experience is teaching them. Every setback carries a lesson. Every obstacle hides an opportunity. When you start to see discomfort as feedback instead of failure, you turn pain into progress. For example, if you fail at something, instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," shift the question to, "What can I learn from this?" That small change in language keeps your mind flexible and forward-focused. It's also important to understand that resilience doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. Being unbreakable is not about pretending you're unaffected. It's about feeling everything: fear, doubt, sadness, and still moving through it. Emotional honesty builds endurance. When you allow yourself to experience discomfort fully, without trying to escape or numb it, you train your nervous system to stay steady under pressure. You stop running from life, and you start engaging with it completely. Many people think they need motivation to face challenges, but motivation fades. What truly sustains resilience is commitment. Commitment means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means doing the work when no one is watching. It's in those moments of discomfort when your body is tired, when your mind says, "Not today," that your real growth happens. The unbreakable mindset doesn't rely on emotion, it relies on discipline. You can practice this mindset in everyday life. When you hit traffic, instead of getting angry, breathe and use the time to practice patience. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting defensively, pause and consider whether there's something to learn. When things don't go as planned, instead of giving up, ask yourself, how can I adapt? These small moments are mental training sessions. They prepare you for the bigger battles ahead. Another powerful truth about discomfort is that it reveals your strength to yourself. You never really know how capable you are until life tests you. The challenges that feel unbearable often become the moments that define you. They teach you that pain is temporary, but growth is permanent. When you survive something difficult, your confidence expands. You start to trust yourself more deeply. That trust is the foundation of resilience. It's the quiet, knowing that no matter what happens, you'll find a way through. Over time, you'll begin to notice a transformation. The things that used to scare you no longer hold the same power. You stop avoiding difficult situations because you've proven to yourself that you can handle them. Discomfort becomes familiar, even welcome, because you know it's shaping you into someone stronger. You begin to live with less fear and more purpose. That is the essence of resilient strength, built through deliberate struggle. It's worth remembering that resilience doesn't make life easier, it makes you tougher. Challenges will still come, but instead of breaking you, they'll refine you. Every experience becomes a training ground for mental toughness. Every hardship becomes another brick in the foundation of your unbreakable mindset. So when discomfort appears, don't retreat. Lean in. Remind yourself that this is where growth happens. You don't need to enjoy the pain, but you can learn to respect it. Each time you step into discomfort willingly, you reclaim power from fear. You prove to yourself that your limits are not fixed, they are flexible. And with every challenge you face, your mind grows stronger, your spirit grows steadier, and your resilience becomes unshakable. Becoming unbreakable doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the moments you choose courage over ease, discipline over excuses, and progress over perfection. The more you lean into discomfort, the less it controls you. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the challenges you once feared were the very things that built your strength, your confidence, and your unbreakable mindset. Chapter 3. Shift from fixed to growth mindset. Your mindset is the lens through which you see the world. It determines how you interpret challenges, how you respond to failure, and ultimately how far you'll go in life. A fixed mindset believes that your abilities, intelligence, and potential are set in stone, that you're either good at something or you're not. A growth mindset, on the other hand, sees potential everywhere. It understands that skills can be developed, intelligence can be expanded, and success is something that grows through consistent effort. To become unbreakable, you must make a conscious shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. This isn't just about thinking positively. It's about changing the entire way you relate to failure, effort, and learning. People with a fixed mindset see failure as evidence of their limitations. When they fall short, they believe it means they're not capable. But people with a growth mindset view failure as feedback. They see it as a necessary step toward improvement, not a reflection of their worth. This difference may seem small, but it changes everything. Imagine two people facing the same setback. One says, "I'm not good at this," The other says, "I'm not good at this yet." That one word "yet" is the bridge between defeat and development. It keeps the door open for progress. It says, "I may not have mastered it today, but I can learn." The first mindset stops at difficulty. The second one grows because of it. The fixed mindset often forms early in life. You might remember being praised for being smart, talented, or naturally gifted. It feels good, but it can also create pressure. If your worth is tied to being naturally good at things, failure becomes terrifying. You start avoiding challenges because they might reveal your flaws. You play it safe to protect your identity. In contrast, a growth mindset values effort and persistence over innate ability. It celebrates the process rather than the outcome. It says, "I'm proud of how hard I worked," not just, "I'm proud that I succeeded." To shift your mindset, start by noticing the language you use. Do you catch yourself saying things like, "I can't," "That's just not me," or "I'll never be able to do that"? Those are signs of a fixed mindset speaking. Each time you catch one of those thoughts, challenge it. Replace it with growth-focused language. "I can't do this yet," or "This is difficult, but I can improve." Over time, your self-talk becomes your training ground. The more you practice flexible thinking, the more natural it becomes. Another key aspect of a growth mindset is curiosity. Instead of fearing what you don't know, start being fascinated by it. Every skill you admire in someone else is a skill that was once foreign to them too. No one starts as an expert. Every professional was once a beginner fumbling through the basics. When you remember that, you stop comparing your starting point to someone else's success. You focus instead on your own progress, however small it may be. Mistakes are an inevitable part of growth, and people with a growth mindset treat them as teachers. When something goes wrong, they don't ask, "Why am I failing?" They ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question turns frustration into fuel. It helps you analyze your actions, adjust your approach, and try again with more insight. The truth is, every failure holds data that success can't teach you. Success builds confidence, but failure builds wisdom. Both are essential, but wisdom is what makes you truly unbreakable. Adopting a growth mindset also means learning to detach your identity from your performance. You are not your mistakes. You are not your outcomes. You are a work in progress. When you internalize this, setbacks lose their sting. You stop seeing them as proof that you're not good enough and start seeing them as evidence that you're growing. The more you practice this perspective, the more resilient you become. It's also important to surround yourself with people who encourage growth. The environment you choose can either reinforce a fixed mindset or challenge it. Spend time with people who value learning, curiosity, and perseverance over perfection. Listen to those who share lessons instead of excuses. The energy you absorb from others shapes your mindset more than you might realize. At the same time, be careful not to compare your growth to anyone else's. The journey to mastery looks different for everyone. Some people progress quickly, others take time. What matters is that you keep moving. Progress, no matter how slow, is still progress. Every small improvement compounds over time. The person who grows 1% every day ends up transforming completely within a year. One of the most powerful exercises for building a growth mindset is reflection. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what did I learn today? What challenged me? How did I grow? These questions shift your focus from results to learning. They remind you that every day carries an opportunity to become better than you were yesterday. You can also build growth through action. When you face a problem, resist the urge to give up quickly. Instead, take one small step forward. Maybe it's trying a new approach, asking for feedback, or studying how others solved a similar challenge. Each small step trains your brain to associate effort with improvement. Over time, your tolerance for difficulty increases. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. Remember that change doesn't happen overnight. The fixed mindset will still whisper in your ear from time to time. It will say, "You're wasting your time," or "You'll never get it right." When that happens, pause and remind yourself that growth is messy. Progress rarely moves in a straight line. There will be setbacks, plateaus, and doubts, but that's exactly what growth looks like. The key is not to eliminate those moments, but to outlast them. By committing to a growth mindset, you're not just changing how you think, you're changing how you live. You start viewing challenges as opportunities, effort as strength, and failure as information. You begin to see yourself as adaptable, capable, and evolving. That shift unlocks potential you never knew existed. Becoming unbreakable doesn't mean you never fall. It means you never stop getting back up. The growth mindset is what gives you that ability. It keeps you humble when you succeed and determined when you fail. It transforms obstacles into stepping stones and weaknesses into areas of training. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you stop fearing failure altogether because you understand that growth is the real goal. Every challenge becomes a chance to refine your character and expand your capacity. And when your mind learns to love the process, you become truly unstoppable, because no setback can break a person who's committed to learning from everything. Chapter 4. Align with your values and purpose. There comes a moment in every person's journey when strength, motivation, and willpower no longer feel like enough. You can push yourself for weeks or even months through sheer determination, but eventually you reach a point where force alone won't carry you forward. That's when purpose becomes essential. Purpose is what transforms effort into meaning and struggle into growth. Without it, even the strongest mindset eventually cracks. With it, you become unbreakable. Your values and purpose are the compass that guide your decisions, especially when the path gets hard. They remind you who you are and why you started. When your actions align with your deepest values, you gain clarity, focus, and energy that cannot be faked or forced. But when you live out of alignment, when your choices contradict what you truly believe, you feel drained, lost, and uncertain. The inner conflict between what you do and what you value is one of the biggest causes of mental and emotional exhaustion. To align with your values, you first have to know what they are. Most people never take the time to define them. They move through life reacting to circumstances, influenced by what others expect or what seems practical. But true confidence and peace come from living according to principles you've chosen consciously. Sit down and ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What do I want my life to stand for? You may find that your answers don't match how you currently live, and that realization can be uncomfortable. But discomfort here is a gift. It shows you where realignment is needed. For example, you might say you value health, but your daily habits don't support it. You might say you value honesty, but you avoid difficult conversations. Awareness of this gap is powerful, because once you see it, you can start to close it. Each time your actions match your values, your integrity strengthens. Each time you compromise your values, your confidence weakens. Purpose builds on top of values. If values define what you stand for, purpose explains why you're standing there. It's the deeper reason behind your actions. It's what keeps you grounded when everything else feels uncertain, Your purpose doesn't have to be grand or public. It could be as simple as to grow a little every day, to create something meaningful, or to bring light to others. What matters is that it resonates with you on a level beyond logic, something that feels like truth, not just ambition. When you're connected to your purpose, challenges take on a new shape. They stop feeling like punishments and start feeling like preparation. Every setback becomes part of the mission. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me for where I'm going?" That shift changes everything. It turns pain into perspective and hardship into motivation. One of the most common mistakes people make is confusing goals with purpose. Goals are external, they're about what you achieve. Purpose is internal, it's about who you become. You can achieve every goal on your list and still feel empty if those goals weren't connected to something meaningful. Purpose gives goals direction and emotion. Without it, success feels shallow and temporary. With it, even failure feels valuable. To strengthen your connection to purpose, take time to reflect on the moments in life when you felt most alive or fulfilled. What were you doing? Who were you helping? What values were you honoring? Often, purpose hides in those moments. It's not something you invent, it's something you uncover. It's already there, waiting to be recognized. Living with purpose also requires courage, because once you know what matters to you, you'll have to make choices that align with it, and not everyone will understand those choices. You may have to say no to opportunities that don't fit your values, even if they look appealing. You may have to distance yourself from people who pull you away from your purpose. Alignment sometimes means walking alone for a while, but that solitude brings clarity and strength that can't be found in compromise. The truth is, alignment brings freedom. When your thoughts, words, and actions all move in the same direction, life feels simpler. You no longer waste energy pretending, hiding, or second-guessing. You stop living for approval and start living from conviction. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means it becomes meaningful. Every challenge, every decision, every effort feels connected to something bigger than yourself. Purpose is also what sustains discipline. When you know why you're doing something, it's easier to keep going even when you don't feel like it. Motivation is temporary, purpose is permanent. Motivation fades when the excitement wears off, but purpose endures because it's rooted in identity. You're no longer just chasing a result, you're living out who you are. That's what makes a person unstoppable. If you ever feel lost or unmotivated, come back to your purpose. Ask yourself, why does this matter to me? And who am I doing this for? The answer might reignite the fire that's gone dim. When your purpose is clear, even ordinary tasks gain significance. You stop drifting through life and start moving with direction. Every day becomes part of a mission, and that mission fuels resilience. It's also important to remember that purpose evolves. The person you are today may not be the person you were 5 years ago, and that's okay. As you grow, your priorities shift, and so does your sense of meaning. Revisit your values regularly. Reflect on whether they still align with who you're becoming. There's strength in flexibility. Purpose isn't a cage, it's a compass that adjusts as you do. To put this into practice, try writing a personal statement of purpose. It doesn't have to be perfect or poetic. Start with something honest and simple, such as, "I want to become unbreakable so that I can help others find their strength," or "I strive to grow every day so I can live with integrity and peace." Keep this statement somewhere visible on your wall, in your journal, or on your phone. Read it whenever you feel uncertain or discouraged. Let it remind you of what truly matters. When your purpose and values are clear, decision-making becomes easier. You don't have to overthink or doubt yourself. You simply ask, does this align with who I am and where I'm going? If the answer is no, you move on without guilt. That clarity saves energy and builds confidence. You no longer live reactively, you live intentionally. In the end, alignment is about harmony. It's about ensuring that your thoughts, words, and actions all play the same song. When they do, life feels balanced and powerful. You become someone who moves with quiet conviction, steady, clear, and unshakable. That's the essence of being unbreakable, living in alignment with your truth, guided by your purpose, and anchored in your values. When you know who you are and why you're here, no storm can knock you off course. Chapter 5. Master your habits and environment. Success is not built in a single moment of inspiration. It is built in the quiet repetition of daily actions. Your habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They shape your thoughts, influence your emotions, and determine the results you experience. You can have the strongest intentions in the world, but if your habits and environment are not aligned with your goals, progress will always feel like an uphill battle. To become unbreakable, you must master both. The first thing to understand about habits is that they are not just routines, they are reflections of your mindset. Every habit you have is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. When you choose to exercise, you're casting a vote for the identity of a healthy person. When you sit down to read or learn, you're reinforcing the identity of a disciplined, curious individual. Each small action you repeat either strengthens or weakens that identity. Over time, those small actions add up and become who you are. The mind and body crave consistency. What you do repeatedly becomes automatic because the brain is always searching for efficiency. It builds shortcuts, neural pathways that make repeated actions easier. This is how habits are formed. At first, they require effort. Later, they become second nature. The danger is that the brain doesn't differentiate between good and bad habits. It simply reinforces whatever you practice. If you consistently avoid discomfort, that avoidance becomes automatic too. That's why mastering habits begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what actions am I repeating daily, consciously or unconsciously? Which ones bring me closer to my goals, and which ones pull me further away? Be honest. You don't need to judge yourself, but you do need to see the truth clearly, because awareness, once again, is the foundation of mastery. Once you've identified your current habits, the next step is to design better ones. Start small. The biggest mistake people make is trying to change everything at once. They want to overhaul their lives overnight, but that approach almost always fails. Willpower is limited. Structure is sustainable. Instead of focusing on massive change, focus on consistency. Commit to something so simple you can't fail: 5 minutes of reading, 1 short workout, 10 minutes of reflection. When you keep small promises to yourself, you build trust. That self-trust becomes the foundation of discipline. Over time, increase the difficulty gradually. What begins as 5 minutes can become 30. What begins as a single push-up can turn into a full workout. Progress doesn't require intensity, it requires continuity. The person who moves 1 inch forward every day will always outlast the person who sprints for a week and stops. Discipline is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters every day, no matter how small it feels. But habits don't exist in isolation, they exist within an environment. Your surroundings have more influence on your behavior than your motivation does. It's hard to stay strong when everything around you encourages weakness. If you want to master your habits, you must design your environment to make good choices easy and bad choices difficult. Look around your physical space. Does it support your growth or distract you from it? If your goal is to read more, keep a book on your desk instead of your phone. If you want to eat better, stock your kitchen with nourishing food and remove what tempts you. If you want to focus on work, clean your workspace and eliminate clutter. Small changes in your environment can create massive changes in behavior because they remove friction. Your digital environment matters just as much. The content you consume shapes your mindset. Every post, video, or conversation you engage with is either fueling your focus or feeding your distraction. Curate your inputs carefully. Follow people who inspire growth, not those who drain your energy with negativity. The mind adapts to what it consumes. Feed it wisely. The people you surround yourself with are also part of your environment. Relationships are powerful mirrors. They reflect and reinforce your habits. If you spend time with people who complain, procrastinate, or settle for less, you'll eventually do the same. If you surround yourself with people who challenge you, support you, and strive for excellence, their energy will elevate yours. You don't have to cut everyone out of your life, but you must learn to protect your mental space. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. A helpful way to think about this is to imagine your environment as a garden. Your habits are the seeds. If the soil is poor, no matter how hard you try, your growth will be limited. But if you enrich the soil by surrounding yourself with positivity, structure, and clarity, your habits will flourish naturally. You don't have to force growth. You simply have to nurture the right conditions. Another important aspect of mastering your habits is understanding the difference between motivation and systems. Motivation comes and goes. It's unreliable. Systems are steady. A system is a structure that makes success automatic. For example, instead of relying on motivation to exercise, you can build a system. Set out your clothes the night before, schedule a specific workout time, and commit to a minimum of 10 minutes. Even on days when you don't feel like it, the system carries you. Motivation may start the engine, but systems keep it running. Reward and accountability are also essential components of habit formation. When you make progress, celebrate it. The brain releases dopamine when you recognize achievements, even small ones. That chemical reward reinforces the behavior, making it more likely you'll repeat it. On the other hand, accountability keeps you honest. Tell a friend about your goals or track your progress in a journal. The simple act of monitoring behavior increases awareness and consistency. Mastering habits also requires patience. Change takes time, and the results often appear long after the effort. Many people give up too early because they expect visible transformation right away. But the true transformation happens internally first. Each time you repeat a habit, you're strengthening new neural pathways. You might not see the change immediately, but it's happening beneath the surface. Like a seed growing roots before sprouting, consistency works invisibly before it works visibly. Eventually, good habits become self-reinforcing. You start to crave the discipline instead of the comfort. You begin to enjoy the process rather than the outcome. The same way, unhealthy habits spiral downward. Healthy habits create an upward cycle. One small win leads to another, and over time, those wins reshape your identity. You no longer have to force yourself to do what's right. You simply become the kind of person who does it naturally. As you strengthen your habits, you'll also notice how much mental space you free up. Good habits reduce decision fatigue because they remove unnecessary choices. Instead of debating whether to work out or procrastinate, you just do it. Instead of wondering whether to write, you sit down and start. Every decision you automate gives you more energy for creativity, problem solving, and growth. That's the quiet power of structure. It liberates your mind from chaos. It's worth remembering that mastering habits and environment is not about control. It's about alignment. You're creating conditions that support the person you want to become. You're no longer relying on temporary bursts of willpower. You're designing a life that naturally pulls you toward progress. This approach doesn't just make you productive, it makes you peaceful. Because when your habits, environment, and identity work in harmony, resistance fades. You no longer have to fight yourself every day. You flow in the direction of your purpose. The unbreakable person doesn't wait for ideal conditions. They create them. They understand that greatness is built quietly in the details of daily life. What time they wake up, how they use their attention, who they spend time with, what they choose to believe. Every small choice compounds. Every environment you build either lifts you or limits you. So, take control of what you can. Build your days intentionally. Shape your surroundings with purpose. Choose habits that strengthen your character instead of weakening your will. Because in the end, you don't rise to the level of your motivation, you fall to the level of your habits. And when your habits are strong and your environment supports your growth, you don't just survive, you thrive. You become consistent, grounded, and unstoppable. You become unbreakable. Chapter 6. Take consistent action and build momentum. Every dream, every goal, and every transformation depends on one principle: consistent action. Knowledge, strategy, and motivation mean nothing without movement. The difference between people who succeed and those who don't isn't intelligence or luck, it's consistency. Taking small, steady steps every day creates unstoppable momentum. This is the chapter where thought becomes reality, where vision becomes progress, and where the unbreakable mindset truly takes form. Most people wait for the perfect time to start. They tell themselves they'll take action when they feel ready, when circumstances improve, or when they have more confidence. But that perfect time never comes. Waiting for the right moment is just another form of fear, disguised as preparation. Action doesn't come after confidence. Action creates confidence. The moment you move, even a little, you start to shift from hesitation to empowerment. Consistency is often misunderstood. Many assume it means doing everything perfectly every day, but that's not the truth. Consistency means showing up, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. It means doing something, however small, that keeps your momentum alive. The unbreakable person understands that progress isn't built in big leaps. It's built in steady steps that compound over time. Think of momentum like pushing a heavy boulder. At first, it feels impossible to move. The resistance is strong, and the effort is exhausting. But once the boulder begins to roll, it becomes easier to keep it going. That's what happens when you take consistent action. The hardest part is the beginning. Once movement starts, inertia works in your favor. You gain energy from progress itself. Each action fuels the next, and soon, what was once difficult becomes natural. The challenge is that consistency doesn't always produce immediate results. You can do the right thing for days, weeks, or even months before you see visible change. This delay causes many people to give up prematurely. They assume it's not working. But real growth works like compound interest, slow at first, then exponential. Every action, no matter how small, adds up in ways you can't yet see. Trust the process. The invisible work you're doing now will one day become visible results. One of the biggest enemies of consistency is perfectionism. Many people start strong but stop when things don't go as planned. They think missing one day means failure, or that imperfection makes their efforts meaningless. But perfectionism kills momentum because it focuses on outcomes instead of effort. The goal is not to be perfect, the goal is to keep going. A small, imperfect step forward is infinitely more powerful than standing still waiting for perfection. To build lasting momentum, create structure. Spontaneous effort relies on emotion, but structure relies on commitment. Design systems that make action automatic. If your goal is to write a book, schedule a specific writing time every day and protect it like an appointment. If you want to get fit, decide in advance when and where you'll work out. Structure removes the need for daily decision-making and reduces friction. You don't ask yourself whether to act, you simply follow your plan. Another key to consistency is lowering the barrier to entry. When tasks feel overwhelming, resistance grows. The trick is to make starting easy. Tell yourself you'll work for just 10 minutes. Often, once you begin, momentum takes over and you end up doing much more. Starting small is not weakness, it's strategy. The hardest part of any task is getting started, not continuing. It's also crucial to track your progress. The human brain thrives on evidence of success. When you see proof of improvement, no matter how minimal, it reinforces your motivation. Keep a journal, checklist, or visual tracker where you record your efforts. Watching your streak grow gives you a sense of pride and accountability. Even if the progress feels slow, the act of recording it reminds you that you're moving forward. Momentum is not just about physical action, it's also about emotional energy. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you strengthen self-respect. Every time you break a promise, you weaken it. Keeping your word to yourself is the foundation of inner confidence. When you consistently act in alignment with your goals, your mind begins to trust you. That trust becomes self-belief, and self-belief becomes power. Discipline and consistency also protect you from the ups and downs of motivation. Motivation is emotional. It fluctuates. Some days you'll feel inspired, other days you won't. The unbreakable person doesn't depend on emotion to act. They depend on principle. They do what needs to be done, whether or not they feel like it. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Every small act of discipline is a declaration of strength. Distraction is another major obstacle to consistency. In a world full of notifications, noise, and instant gratification, it's easy to lose focus. To maintain momentum, you must guard your attention. Each time you give in to distraction, you break your rhythm. Learn to say no to what doesn't serve your purpose. Prioritize progress over pleasure. Short-term comfort often costs long-term growth. The ability to stay focused amidst chaos is one of the defining traits of an unbreakable mind. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when everything seems pointless. Those are the most critical moments. That's where persistence is tested. Most people quit right before the breakthrough, but if you keep moving forward even slowly, you'll eventually cross that invisible line where momentum takes over. What once required effort begins to feel natural. What once felt impossible becomes part of your identity. Resilience and consistency are deeply connected. Every time you face resistance and keep going, you're teaching your mind that obstacles are temporary. You're proving to yourself that discomfort doesn't control you. This builds a deep sense of stability that no external circumstance can shake. You become someone who doesn't just act when it's convenient. You act because it's who you are. One of the most powerful truths about consistent action is that it compounds in ways you can't predict. A single decision to start can lead to opportunities you never imagined. A single habit can transform your health, your confidence, or your relationships. The results may not come today or tomorrow, but they are inevitable if you stay committed. Consistency turns effort into excellence. To maintain momentum, balance is also important. Consistency doesn't mean burnout. Rest is part of progress. The unbreakable mindset values recovery as much as effort because sustainable growth requires renewal. When you rest intentionally, you recharge your mind and body, allowing you to perform better over time. The goal is not endless grind, it's steady, focused persistence. As you practice consistent action, something subtle but powerful happens. Your identity evolves. You stop saying, "I'm trying to change," and start saying, "This is who I am now." You become the kind of person who follows through, who adapts, who doesn't quit. That identity shift is the essence of transformation. You no longer chase discipline, you embody it. Building momentum is not glamorous. It's quiet, repetitive, and often thankless. But it's in those small, unseen efforts that greatness is born. Every day you show up, even when it's inconvenient, you're adding another layer of strength to your foundation. Each step builds the next, and over time, your consistency creates a force that's almost impossible to stop. So take action today, not tomorrow, not next week. Don't wait for inspiration. Begin now, however small. Write the first line, make the first call, take the first step. Then do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. Momentum is built through repetition, and once it starts rolling, it becomes self-sustaining. When you master consistency, you master life. Because success isn't about doing something once, it's about doing the right thing repeatedly until it becomes part of who you are. That's how you build momentum that carries you through challenges, fatigue, and doubt. That's how you become unstoppable. Becoming unbreakable doesn't require perfection. It requires persistence. Keep showing up. Keep moving forward. Over time, consistent action will do what talent, motivation, and luck never could. It will make you unshakable, unstoppable, and unbreakable. Chapter 7. Believe in yourself when no one else does. Every great journey begins with belief. Not belief that the path will be easy or that success is guaranteed, but belief that you are capable of growing into the person who can handle whatever the path demands. Without that belief, the strongest plans collapse. With it, even the impossible becomes possible. Belief is the invisible foundation of every achievement. It is the spark that turns intention into action, and action into transformation. Yet, it is also the hardest thing to hold on to, especially when life challenges you, when people doubt you, or when results don't come as quickly as you hoped. This is the final and most powerful lesson in becoming unbreakable, to believe in yourself when no one else does. Most people base their self-belief on external validation. They feel confident when they receive praise, when their work is recognized, or when others approve of them. But what happens when that approval disappears? What happens when you face criticism, failure, or rejection? That's when true self-belief is tested. Belief that depends on others will always break under pressure. Real belief is built from within. It's quiet, grounded, and independent of outside opinions. Believing in yourself doesn't mean arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than others or pretending you have all the answers. True self-belief is humble but unshakable. It's the quiet voice that says, "I don't know everything, but I trust myself to figure it out." It's the calm confidence that even if you fall, you'll rise again. This kind of belief is not given to you. You build it, one decision at a time. The process begins with self-awareness. You have to understand that your current beliefs about yourself were not born overnight. They were shaped by years of experience, feedback, and comparison. Somewhere along the way, someone may have told you that you weren't capable, that you weren't smart enough, or that you didn't have what it takes. Over time, you may have internalized those words as truth. But they were never truth. They were someone else's limitation projected onto you. The unbreakable person learns to separate who they are from what others believe about them. Every time you doubt yourself, pause and ask, where did this doubt come from? You'll often find it's not your voice at all. It's the echo of a past experience or a comment that stuck with you. Once you see that, you can begin to challenge it. You can replace the old narrative with a new one rooted in possibility instead of fear. This is how belief begins to take shape. It's not about convincing yourself that you're perfect. It's about trusting your ability to grow. Belief grows through evidence. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen it. Each time you follow through on a commitment, even when it's difficult, you reinforce the idea that you can depend on yourself. That reliability is the foundation of confidence. Most people think belief comes first and action follows, but it's actually the other way around. Action creates belief. The more you prove to yourself that you can take action despite fear, the stronger your faith in yourself becomes. There will be moments when you feel invisible or unsupported. People might not see your vision, they might question your decisions or underestimate your potential. In those moments, remember that no one else is supposed to understand your journey because it's yours alone. You are not here to convince others, you are here to become. The only validation you truly need is your own. History is full of examples of people who were doubted, dismissed, or ridiculed before they succeeded. Every innovator, leader, and creator faced disbelief at some point. But they kept going because their belief in themselves was stronger than the noise around them. They didn't need permission to rise. You don't either. The world only recognizes greatness after it's proven, but belief requires you to see it before it's visible. Building belief also requires self-compassion. You can't hate yourself into becoming better. You can't grow from constant self-criticism. Many people think being hard on themselves keeps them disciplined, but it actually destroys trust. If your inner voice constantly tells you you're not enough, you begin to believe it. True self-belief grows in an environment of encouragement, not punishment. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to someone you love. Support yourself, especially when you fail. That's how resilience takes root. Fear is the natural enemy of belief. Fear whispers that you'll fail, that you're wasting your time, that you're not ready. But fear is not truth. It's a protective instinct, trying to keep you comfortable. The key is not to eliminate fear, but to move forward despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else, your purpose, your growth, your future, matters more than fear. Each time you act with courage, your belief expands. One powerful practice to strengthen belief is visualization. Take a few moments every day to imagine yourself succeeding, not as fantasy, but as mental rehearsal. See yourself acting with confidence, handling challenges with grace, staying calm under pressure. Your mind doesn't distinguish vividly imagined experiences from real ones. When you visualize success regularly, you train your brain to expect it. You start to align your actions with that image. Over time, belief turns into reality because you've already lived it in your mind. It's also essential to protect your belief from the influence of negativity. Surround yourself with people who encourage growth and challenge you to rise higher. Distance yourself from those who drain your confidence or feed your doubt. The people you spend time with shape the stories you tell yourself. If your circle doesn't support your vision, expand your circle. Find those who remind you of your strength, not your limitations. Belief also thrives on gratitude. When you focus only on what's missing, you reinforce scarcity and weakness. But when you acknowledge what you've already achieved, how far you've come, what you've survived, you strengthen the foundation of belief. Gratitude reminds you that you are already capable, that you've already overcome challenges that once seemed impossible. It shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's possible. You'll also need patience. Self-belief doesn't grow overnight. It's built through repetition, through countless small victories and quiet acts of persistence. You'll doubt yourself again and again, but each time you choose faith over fear, you train your mind to trust you a little more. That's how belief evolves from fragile to firm, from fleeting to unbreakable. At times, believing in yourself will feel lonely. You'll walk through seasons where no one claps for you, where your efforts go unnoticed, and where progress feels invisible. Those are the defining moments. That's where belief becomes real. Because when you keep moving in silence, when you keep building without validation, you're proving to yourself that your faith doesn't depend on applause, it depends on purpose. Eventually, the results of that belief will speak for themselves. People will start to notice the strength they once doubted. They'll call you lucky or talented, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck, it was belief. It was the countless days you refused to quit when no one was watching. It was the unwavering conviction that no matter how many times you fell, you could always rise again. Belief in yourself is not a one-time achievement, it's a lifelong practice. There will always be new challenges, new doubts, new fears. But once you've built the inner foundation, nothing external can truly shake you. You'll carry within you a deep, quiet certainty that you can handle whatever comes next. That's what it means to be unbreakable. So when others don't see your potential, see it for yourself. When no one believes in you, believe harder. When fear tells you to stop, take another step forward. Because in the end, belief is not something you find, it's something you create. It's the light you build within yourself when the world feels dark. And once that light is strong enough, it doesn't just guide you, it inspires everyone around you. Believe in yourself when no one else does. That is the final, unshakable lesson of the unbreakable mindset. When you trust yourself deeply, when you move through the world with quiet conviction, nothing outside of you can define your limits. You become a force, steady, grounded, and unstoppable. You don't just survive life's storms, you walk through them and you shine. Chapter 8. The Power of Discipline and Daily Mastery. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement, between dreams and reality. Without it, even the greatest potential remains unfulfilled. With it, ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Discipline is not about harsh control or punishment, it is about alignment. It is the daily act of choosing what matters most over what feels easiest in the moment. If belief gives you strength and purpose gives you direction, discipline is the force that keeps you moving forward, no matter what. In the journey to becoming unbreakable, discipline is where everything you've learned so far takes root. Awareness, resilience, growth, purpose, and consistency all find their power through disciplined action. You can have a powerful vision, clear values, and unwavering belief, but without the discipline to act on them every single day, they remain nothing more than ideas. Discipline is what turns thoughts into results. Many people misunderstand discipline. They see it as restriction, as something that takes away freedom. In truth, discipline creates freedom. It liberates you from the chaos of impulse and emotion. When you are disciplined, you are no longer a slave to mood or circumstance. You are guided by principle. You don't wait to feel like doing something. You do it because it's aligned with your purpose. That consistency gives you peace. There is no more internal debate, no more hesitation. You simply act. Every great athlete, artist, or leader understands this. Talent may give someone a head start, but discipline keeps them in the race. Natural ability can take you only so far. Discipline determines how far you'll go. When you develop it, you become dependable not just to others, but to yourself. You stop making promises you can't keep. You stop starting and quitting. You become the kind of person who finishes what they begin. Discipline is built through structure. The most successful people in the world don't rely on motivation. They rely on routines. They create systems that make discipline a habit rather than a choice. For example, instead of waking up and deciding whether or not to work out, they schedule it as a non-negotiable part of their day. Instead of wondering what to focus on, they plan ahead. They don't leave their growth to chance, they engineer it. To develop this kind of structure, start by identifying your non-negotiables. These are the actions that, no matter how small, move you closer to your goals and strengthen your mindset. Maybe it's 30 minutes of exercise, 10 pages of reading, or time spent reflecting and planning. Whatever they are, commit to doing them every day. Treat them with the same importance as breathing or eating. Discipline becomes easier when it's built on identity. You're not forcing yourself to act, you're simply being who you are. But discipline also requires sacrifice. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. You can't move forward without letting go of distractions that drain your focus. Whether it's mindless scrolling, toxic relationships, or habits that waste your time, you must decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. The unbreakable person understands that discipline isn't about saying no to joy, it's about saying yes to meaning. There will be days when discipline feels like a burden. You'll be tired, unmotivated, or frustrated by slow progress. Those are the days that matter most. Anyone can act when it's easy, but true mastery comes from acting when it's not. When you push through resistance, you build mental endurance. You train your mind to stay steady under pressure. Each time you follow through despite discomfort, you're reinforcing strength at the deepest level. It's also important to recognize that discipline and self-compassion go hand in hand. Some people mistake discipline for perfectionism. They think it means never missing a day or never making mistakes. But discipline isn't about punishing failure. It's about returning quickly after you fall. Everyone slips. Everyone breaks rhythm. What defines discipline is how fast you get back up. Forgive yourself, adjust, and recommit. That's the rhythm of mastery. Discipline is not a one-time decision. It's a series of small choices made over and over again. Each morning, you choose to rise instead of sleep in. Each evening, you choose to reflect instead of mindlessly scroll. These small acts accumulate, and over time, they become your character. You begin to trust yourself completely because you know that no matter how hard it gets, you will show up. That trust creates a quiet, unshakable confidence. The truth is that discipline is not glamorous. It often looks like repetition, simplicity, and routine. It's the same workout, the same writing session, the same daily habits day after day. There's nothing exciting about it, but there is something sacred. Because each time you show up, you're proving to yourself that your commitment is real. You're laying another brick in the foundation of your future. And eventually, those small, consistent actions create results that look like miracles to everyone else. Your environment also plays a major role in sustaining discipline. Surround yourself with people who value effort and integrity. Create spaces that encourage focus instead of distraction. The fewer temptations you expose yourself to, the easier discipline becomes. Don't rely on willpower alone. Structure your surroundings so that discipline feels natural. Remove obstacles, simplify decisions, and protect your priorities fiercely. One of the greatest benefits of discipline is that it builds self-respect. Every time you honor your commitments, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Every time you break them, you weaken that belief. This is why undisciplined living often leads to anxiety and dissatisfaction, because deep down, you know you're betraying your potential. Discipline restores that integrity. It aligns who you are with who you want to be. Another key to mastering discipline is learning to delay gratification. In a world that celebrates instant rewards, patience is rare, but it's the soil where greatness grows. When you can resist short-term pleasure for long-term fulfillment, you gain power over yourself. You become the master of your impulses rather than their prisoner. This control doesn't suppress your desires, it directs them. It channels your energy into creation instead of consumption. It's also essential to redefine how you measure success. Discipline is not just about achieving big goals, it's about who you become in the process. The unbreakable person understands that the reward isn't just the destination, it's the growth, the self-respect, and the mastery earned along the way. When you focus on becoming the kind of person who follows through, success becomes inevitable. Discipline is contagious. When others see your consistency, they feel inspired to do the same. Your quiet commitment becomes an example of strength. You might never know how many lives your discipline touches, but it will ripple outward. A single person living with focus and purpose can shift the energy of an entire environment. That is the hidden power of mastery. It influences beyond words. As your discipline deepens, you'll notice something profound. You no longer need to push yourself as hard. The habits you once had to fight for become effortless. The structure you once resisted becomes your freedom. What was once an act of willpower becomes part of your nature. That is the transformation discipline offers. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. Ultimately, discipline is the foundation of an unbreakable life. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you feels unstable. It's what ensures that your goals are not just dreams, but lived realities. The disciplined person doesn't rely on motivation, luck, or external approval. They rely on consistency, commitment, and clarity. So choose discipline not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Build routines that strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, and steady your emotions. Protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Each day, choose to act with purpose, not impulse. Over time, those choices will shape a life of depth, strength, and fulfillment. When you master discipline, you no longer chase balance, you embody it. You stop drifting and start directing. You become reliable, calm, and powerful. You discover that freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from doing what's right, consistently. And when you live that way, when your actions match your purpose every single day, you don't just become strong, you become unbreakable. Chapter 9. Embrace failure as a teacher, not a defeat. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has failed many times, often painfully. Yet what separates those who rise from those who quit is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It's perspective. The unbreakable person understands that failure is not the end, it's information. It's a mirror reflecting back what needs improvement. It's a lesson disguised as loss. Once you stop fearing failure and start learning from it, your entire life begins to change. Most people are conditioned to avoid failure from an early age. In school, mistakes are punished. In society, they are ridiculed. We grow up believing that failure is something shameful, proof that we're not good enough. But in truth, failure is inevitable on any worthwhile journey. You cannot grow without risk, and you cannot take risks without sometimes falling short. To become unbreakable, you must rewrite your relationship with failure. Failure is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to adjust. It's feedback from reality saying, "This approach didn't work. Try another." Every failure contains a seed of wisdom, but you can only harvest it if you face it honestly. Too often, people run from their mistakes or blame others, missing the chance to learn. The unbreakable person takes full responsibility, not to feel guilt, but to gain insight. They ask, "What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time?" That question transforms pain into progress. When you fail, it's easy to internalize the experience as identity, to think, "I failed, therefore I am a failure." But that's a lie your ego tells to keep you small. Failure is not who you are. It's something that happened. It's a moment, not a definition. Everyone fails, but not everyone gets back up. The moment you choose to rise again, failure loses its power. It stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest teacher. One of the most powerful truths about failure is that it reveals character. It shows you how much you want something. When things go wrong, when doors close, when the world seems to say no, that's when you discover your real strength. Anyone can persist when success is guaranteed. True resilience appears only when you continue despite uncertainty. Every time you rise after falling, you send a message to yourself: "I am stronger than this moment." The fear of failure is often worse than failure itself. The anticipation, the what-ifs, the imagined embarrassment, the dread of judgment paralyzes people long before they even try. But once you fail and realize you survived, that fear begins to fade. You see that failure didn't destroy you. It taught you. The more you experience it, the less power it has over you. Eventually, failure becomes familiar, even useful. You start to see it not as a setback, but as part of the process. Think about every skill you've ever mastered. Walking, speaking, reading, all of them began with failure. You fell before you walked. You stumbled over words before you spoke fluently. You misread sentences before you learned to read clearly. Failure was the process that shaped your ability. Yet as adults, we forget this truth. We expect perfection from the start. The unbreakable person remembers that mastery is built on a foundation of mistakes. Failure also strengthens humility. It reminds you that you're still learning, still evolving. When everything goes right, it's easy to believe you've figured it all out. But failure keeps you grounded. It strips away arrogance and replaces it with curiosity. It teaches you to listen, to adapt, and to grow. Humility is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that you don't have to be perfect to progress. It's important to note that not all failures are the same. Some come from lack of effort. Others come despite your best effort. The first kind teaches discipline. The second teaches resilience. Both are valuable. If you fail because you didn't give your best, learn to take responsibility and commit to better effort. If you fail despite giving your all, learn patience and persistence. Either way, failure gives you something no success ever can: depth. There's a quiet power in people who have failed deeply, yet keep moving forward. They carry a kind of calm that comes from knowing they've been tested and survived. They no longer fear rejection or criticism because they've already faced it and kept going. Failure builds that kind of strength. It turns anxiety into courage and uncertainty into endurance. One practical way to reframe failure is through reflection. After every setback, take time to write down what happened, what worked, what didn't, what assumptions did you make, what will you change next time. This simple act turns chaos into clarity. It helps you see patterns instead of problems. It transforms failure from an emotional event into a learning opportunity. Another key lesson from failure is detachment from outcomes. The more you obsess over results, the more pressure you create. That pressure breeds fear, and fear leads to hesitation. Instead, focus on effort and improvement. Success becomes inevitable when you fall in love with the process rather than the prize. The unbreakable person measures growth by who they're becoming, not just by what they're achieving. Failure also builds empathy. When you've struggled, you understand the struggles of others. You become more compassionate, less judgmental. You stop seeing others' mistakes as weaknesses and start recognizing them as part of being human. That humility makes you a better leader, friend, and partner. It connects you more deeply to others because you understand that everyone is fighting battles the world doesn't see. Perhaps the greatest gift of failure is that it forces reinvention. Every time something falls apart, it creates space for something new. Many of life's greatest transformations begin with disappointment. The career that didn't work out pushes you to discover your true calling. The relationship that ended teaches you self-worth. The goal that failed leads you to something even greater. The unbreakable person doesn't just bounce back, they bounce forward. Still, embracing failure doesn't mean enjoying it. Pain hurts, rejection stings. That's part of the process too. Pretending not to care only delays healing. Instead, allow yourself to feel the disappointment fully, then use it as fuel. Pain is energy, and energy can be directed. Channel it into growth, into learning, into renewed focus. It also helps to redefine what success truly means. Success is not the absence of failure, it's the mastery of response. It's how you handle what happens after things go wrong. Some of the most successful people in the world failed more times than they succeeded, but they didn't let failure define them. They used it as data, as direction, as fuel. To truly embrace failure as a teacher, you must release the need for approval. The fear of judgment keeps most people from trying. But here's the truth. The people who criticize you are often too afraid to try themselves. Their opinions can't define your destiny. You don't owe anyone perfection. You owe yourself progress. The moment you stop living for validation, you gain the freedom to grow. Becoming unbreakable doesn't mean you stop failing. It means failure stops breaking you. Each time you rise from a fall, you strengthen your foundation. Each time you turn pain into wisdom, you grow wiser and tougher. Eventually, failure no longer feels like an enemy, but like an old mentor guiding you toward your best self. So, the next time you stumble, remind yourself, this is part of the process. Every mistake, every setback, every defeat carries a lesson that will prepare you for the next victory. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Face it, study it, and rise from it stronger. Because when you learn to embrace failure instead of fear it, you unlock a power that few people ever reach, the ability to move through life with courage, resilience, and calm. That is the final transformation of the unbreakable mindset. You stop seeing failure as a wall and start seeing it as a doorway. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, "What is this trying to teach me?" You realize that failure doesn't end your story, it refines it. It sharpens you, humbles you, and prepares you for the greatness that only perseverance can earn. When you understand that truth, you stop fearing life itself. You stop hesitating, stop doubting, and start living fully. Because now you know, even if you fall, you can rise again, and each time you do, you rise stronger than before. That's not just resilience, that's freedom. That's what it means to be truly unbreakable. Chapter 10. The Journey Never Ends, Becoming a Lifelong Warrior. Becoming unbreakable is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. There's no final point where you declare victory and rest forever. Strength is not something you earn once and keep. It's something you cultivate daily. Just like a muscle, your mindset requires constant training, awareness, and renewal. The moment you stop growing, you start weakening. The final lesson of this journey is to understand that personal mastery is not about reaching the end. It's about continuing, evolving, and deepening your connection with life itself. The greatest mistake people make after achieving success is thinking they've made it. They relax, lose focus, and slowly drift back into comfort. But comfort is the silent enemy of greatness. Growth happens at the edge of challenge. The moment you become too comfortable, you stop expanding. The unbreakable person never confuses rest with retreat. They understand that evolution is endless, that there's always another level of discipline, awareness, and purpose waiting to be reached. Think of life as a constant cycle of growth, challenge, and renewal. You overcome one obstacle, and another appears. You achieve one goal, and a new vision emerges. That's not failure, it's the design of life. You're not meant to reach a permanent state of ease. You're meant to keep unfolding into higher versions of yourself. Every challenge life gives you is an invitation to expand your capacity. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. To live this way, you must shift your perspective from outcome to evolution. Most people chase milestones, titles, wealth, recognition, believing they will bring lasting fulfillment. But once those goals are reached, the satisfaction fades. True fulfillment doesn't come from achieving, it comes from becoming. Every step of growth, every lesson, every failure, every victory adds to your depth as a human being. The goal is not to arrive, it's to continue evolving with intention. This mindset turns life into an adventure. Instead of fearing uncertainty, you begin to embrace it. Uncertainty means possibility. It means there's still more to learn, more to explore, more to give. You realize that the unknown isn't a threat, it's a teacher. The most extraordinary growth happens when you step into what you don't yet understand and trust yourself to figure it out along the way. The journey of becoming unbreakable also means learning to find peace in motion. You don't have to rush or force progress. You simply have to stay engaged, committed to learning, improving, and contributing. There will be seasons of speed and seasons of stillness. Both matter. Growth doesn't always look like forward motion. Sometimes it looks like reflection, healing, or preparation. The key is to remain conscious and intentional, no matter the pace. Another truth of lifelong growth is that you will outgrow people, environments, and even versions of yourself. This can be painful. You may lose relationships that no longer align with your path. You may find yourself drawn to new experiences that others don't understand. But that's the cost of evolution. The more you grow, the more you'll realize that not everyone is meant to walk every part of the journey with you. The unbreakable person learns to let go with gratitude, not bitterness, trusting that every ending creates space for new beginnings. It's also essential to continually feed your mind and spirit. The person you were yesterday had different needs than the person you are today. Read books that challenge you. Listen to people who inspire you. Seek mentors who've walked further down the path. Stay curious. Curiosity is the spark that keeps the fire of growth alive. The moment you believe you've learned enough is the moment you stop evolving. At the same time, practice humility. The more you grow, the easier it is to forget where you started. But humility keeps you grounded. It reminds you that you are forever a student of life. Every person you meet, every challenge you face, carries a lesson if you're open enough to see it. The unbreakable mindset is not rigid, it's adaptable. It learns, adjusts, and keeps moving. You must also redefine success as contribution, not accumulation. As you master yourself, the natural next step is to use your strength to uplift others. True greatness is not just personal achievement, it's service. It's helping others discover their own resilience, purpose, and power. When you reach a point where your growth inspires growth in others, you move from success to significance. That is where the deepest fulfillment lives. There will be times when life feels unfair, when you question the point of your effort. During those moments, remember that the journey isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be meaningful. Easy paths don't build strong people. The challenges you face are not punishments. They are invitations to rise higher. Life will keep testing you, not to break you, but to help you discover what still needs strengthening. To walk this path with peace, develop the discipline of presence. Most suffering comes from living in the past or fearing the future. The unbreakable person learns to be fully present, to meet each moment with awareness and gratitude. The present moment is where strength lives. It's where all progress, healing, and creation begin. No matter how far you've come, it's only now that you can take the next step. Another key to lifelong mastery is learning to balance ambition with contentment. Strive for more, but appreciate where you are. Work toward greatness, but don't lose joy in the process. Growth and gratitude must coexist. Without gratitude, you'll always feel empty, chasing an illusion of fulfillment. Without ambition, you stagnate. Balance both, and you'll move through life with energy and peace. The journey also requires renewal. Burnout is not a badge of honor, it's a sign of imbalance. Rest is not weakness, it's strategy. Just as muscles need recovery to grow stronger, the mind and spirit need rest to sustain clarity. The unbreakable person doesn't just push forward relentlessly. They know when to pause, breathe, and reconnect. The goal is not endless effort, it's sustainable progress. Over time, you'll notice that the unbreakable mindset transforms not just how you act, but how you see the world. You begin to see challenges as opportunities for mastery. You see people not as threats, but as reflections. You stop seeking control and start embracing flow. Life no longer feels like something happening to you. It feels like something happening through you. This way of being brings a deep sense of calm. You realize that you don't need to prove yourself anymore. You don't need to compete, impress, or compare. You've already won the only battle that matters, the one within yourself. You've learned that strength isn't loud, it's steady. It's not about domination, it's about alignment. It's the quiet certainty that you can handle whatever comes next, not because you're invincible, but because you're adaptable. And as you continue walking this path, you'll discover that becoming unbreakable was never just about surviving pain, it was about transcending it. It was about turning suffering into wisdom, fear into fuel, and doubt into purpose. It was about becoming someone who doesn't just endure life, but fully lives it with courage, awareness, and intention. So, as this journey continues, remember, there is no finish line, there's only the next step. The next lesson, the next challenge, the next opportunity to rise a little higher, to deepen your peace, to strengthen your heart. You don't stop growing when you reach your goals. You grow because growth itself is the goal. Becoming unbreakable means accepting that life will never stop testing you and knowing, deep down, that you will never stop rising. It means embracing the beauty of the endless journey, walking forward with humility, strength, and gratitude. Because in the end, the true mark of an unbreakable person is not that they conquered everything, it's that they never stopped evolving. They kept learning, they kept rising, they kept walking, one step at a time, with purpose, discipline, and faith. The journey never ends. But if you live it fully, if you meet each moment with courage and grace, you'll realize that the destination was never somewhere else. It was within you all along. Chapter 11. Lead yourself before you lead the world. Leadership isn't about titles, status, or commanding others. It's about influence, example, and integrity. The final evolution of an unbreakable person is learning to lead. But before you can lead anyone else, you must first master the art of leading yourself. True leadership begins with personal responsibility, emotional discipline, and a commitment to live by the principles you expect from others. You cannot demand from the world what you have not yet cultivated within yourself. Every person is a leader in some capacity, whether in a family, a business, a community, or simply within their own life. Leadership is not confined to CEOs or commanders. It's about owning your energy and impact. The way you show up each day, how you handle pressure, how you treat others, and how you stay aligned with your values, these are all acts of leadership. The question is not if you lead, but how. The first step in self-leadership is radical responsibility. This means accepting full accountability for your choices, emotions, and results. Most people spend their lives blaming external factors, their upbringing, their boss, their circumstances for where they are. But true power begins the moment you stop making excuses. You can't control everything that happens, but you can always control your response. When you take ownership of your life, you reclaim your power to change it. Responsibility is freedom. When you realize that you are the source of your direction, your energy shifts. You stop waiting for permission, for luck, or for perfect conditions. You start acting from conviction. You begin leading your life with purpose instead of reacting to it. That shift, moving from victimhood to authorship, is one of the most transformative steps toward becoming unbreakable. The next pillar of self-leadership is emotional discipline. Leaders are not defined by how they perform when things go smoothly. They're defined by how they handle adversity. When chaos arises, most people panic, lash out, or withdraw. But great leaders stay calm. They don't deny emotion, but they master it. They feel fear, anger, and frustration like anyone else, but they respond thoughtfully, not impulsively. This level of control doesn't come naturally. It's cultivated. It starts with self-awareness, recognizing your triggers, your patterns, and your emotional habits. Instead of being controlled by emotions, you begin observing them. You pause before reacting. You breathe. You reflect. Over time, this practice strengthens your composure. You become someone others can trust, because your energy remains steady when everyone else is losing theirs. That steadiness is what defines leadership. Another key aspect of self-leadership is integrity. Integrity means wholeness. Your thoughts, words, and actions align. You do what's right, even when no one is watching. You keep promises, not for recognition, but because you value truth. In a world where many people take shortcuts, integrity stands out. It builds credibility, and credibility is the foundation of influence. People don't follow those who speak well, they follow those who live well. Integrity also demands humility. A true leader knows that leadership is not about ego or superiority, it's about service. You lead to uplift, not to control. You listen more than you speak. You learn more than you preach. You understand that leadership is a privilege, not a position. When you see it as service, you stop chasing validation and start focusing on contribution. Leading yourself also means setting standards and boundaries. You must decide what you stand for and what you won't tolerate. Weak boundaries destroy strong minds. When you say yes to everything, you lose focus. When you try to please everyone, you lose yourself. Self-leadership means having the courage to say no when necessary, to protect your time, energy, and integrity. Boundaries are not selfish, they are self-respect. A leader must also learn to communicate with clarity and compassion. How you express yourself affects how others feel and respond. Many people confuse honesty with harshness, but true communication blends truth with empathy. When you speak, aim to build, not break. When you listen, listen to understand, not to reply. The quality of your relationships, and thus your influence, depends on the quality of your communication. To lead yourself well, you must also cultivate vision. Vision gives direction to discipline. Without it, effort feels scattered and meaningless. Your vision is your why, the reason you wake up, the direction your discipline points toward. It doesn't have to be grand or global. It simply needs to be true. Maybe it's to create something meaningful, to help others grow, or to live a life of peace and integrity. Whatever your vision, let it guide your daily actions. Leadership is not about control, it's about inspiration. You cannot force people to follow, you can only inspire them through example. The unbreakable person leads by embodiment. Their actions speak louder than their words. They demonstrate consistency, courage, and compassion in everything they do. People naturally trust those who live what they teach. But leadership is also lonely. The higher you climb, the fewer people will understand your path. You'll have to make hard choices, stand alone in your convictions, and stay committed even when misunderstood. Many will question your motives, resist your direction, or project their fears onto you. The unbreakable leader learns to carry solitude with grace. They understand that leadership requires strength, but also empathy, the ability to walk alone without arrogance, and to walk with others without losing identity. As you grow in self-leadership, remember to stay teachable. The best leaders never stop learning. They seek feedback, admit mistakes, and remain curious. Arrogance ends growth, but humility expands it. The moment you believe you've arrived, you begin to decline. Stay open, adaptable, and hungry to learn. Every person you meet knows something you don't. Every situation, even difficult ones, holds lessons. The wise leader extracts wisdom from everything. One of the highest forms of leadership is creating other leaders. A true leader doesn't crave followers, they create more strong, capable individuals. They lift others up, share knowledge, and empower independence. This kind of leadership multiplies impact. It's not about building a throne, it's about building a legacy. When you lead yourself so powerfully that others are inspired to lead themselves too, you've achieved something truly extraordinary. Self-leadership also requires balance. Too much control leads to burnout. Too little leads to chaos. The goal is harmony. Lead yourself firmly, but kindly. Push yourself toward growth, but allow yourself grace when you fall. A compassionate leader understands that progress includes rest, reflection, and renewal. You cannot lead from emptiness, you must lead from overflow. When you master self-leadership, the world becomes less intimidating. You stop waiting for someone to save, direct, or approve you. You become your own compass. You make decisions with clarity, take action with conviction, and adapt with wisdom. The storms of life may still come, but they no longer throw you off course. You've built internal leadership, an inner authority that no external chaos can shake. Ultimately, leadership is not about changing others. It's about becoming so strong, grounded, and aligned that your presence itself changes the atmosphere. You walk into a room and people feel steadier. You speak and people listen, not because you demand respect, but because you've earned it through consistency and truth. You don't lead through dominance, you lead through example. This is the final evolution of the unbreakable mindset, moving from self-mastery to impact. You've built awareness, resilience, discipline, purpose, and belief. You've learned to rise from failure, to align with your values, and to act with consistency. Now you use that strength to guide others not through control, but through inspiration. So lead yourself every day. Lead your thoughts before they lead you astray. Lead your emotions before they control your actions. Lead your habits before they define your future. And when you've mastered that, you won't need to try to lead others. They'll follow naturally, drawn to your integrity, energy, and purpose. Because the greatest leader is not the loudest voice in the room, it's the one who leads quietly by example, who stays true when no one's watching, and who lifts others by walking in truth. That's what it means to lead yourself before you lead the world. That's what it means to be unbreakable. Becoming unbreakable was never about being perfect. It was never about being fearless, flawless, or immune to pain. It was about learning how to rise again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. It was about building strength from within, a strength that doesn't depend on circumstances, approval, or luck. It was about becoming the kind of person who stands tall in the storm, calm in the chaos, and faithful in the face of uncertainty. Every lesson you've walked through, awareness, mindset, growth, alignment, discipline, consistency, belief, and leadership, has been leading you here, to yourself. Because the real power you've been seeking was never outside of you. It was always in your thoughts, your choices, and your willingness to keep moving forward, even when no one was watching. To be unbreakable is to understand that life will test you, and that's not a sign of failure, it's proof of your potential. The challenges are not obstacles, they are invitations. Every hardship that shakes you is also shaping you. Every loss is carving depth. Every struggle is building endurance. The pain you've survived has already proven your resilience. You just have to believe it. There will always be moments of doubt, fear, and exhaustion. But remember, the unbreakable person doesn't avoid difficulty. They transform through it. They use fear as fuel, pain as wisdom, and setbacks as stepping stones. They know that strength is not built in comfort, it's built in resistance. Every time you keep going when it would have been easier to quit, you are becoming the person you were meant to be. Your journey doesn't end here. In truth, it's only beginning. Because becoming unbreakable is not a one-time transformation, it's a way of living. It's a daily practice of awareness, gratitude, and growth. It's the discipline to show up for yourself every day, even when it's hard. It's the courage to face what's uncomfortable and the faith to believe in what's possible. One day, you'll look back and realize that the strength you have now was built from every difficult moment you once prayed to escape. You'll see that the pieces that broke you were the very ones that rebuilt you. You'll understand that being unbreakable never meant never falling. It meant never staying down. So keep walking, keep growing, keep believing. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to keep moving forward with purpose, humility, and heart. You are stronger than you think, wiser than you know, and more capable than you can imagine. The world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more unbreakable ones. People who live with courage, lead with integrity, and love with resilience. People who don't just survive the fire, but rise from it, refined, grounded, and unstoppable. Because being unbreakable isn't about avoiding the storms of life. It's about learning to dance in the rain, walk through the fire, and emerge shining on the other side. And when you do, when you live this truth fully, you won't just change your life. You'll inspire others to believe that they can change theirs too. That is your power. That is your purpose. That is what it means to be unbreakable.